I have 7 p.m., so we'll go ahead and open the Westfield Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. Tuesday, August 13th. And could I have a roll call, please, to determine a quorum?
Mr. Bunkefist.
Present.
Dr. Keene.
Here.
Mr. Clarino.
Here.
Mr. Plummer.
Here.
Mr. Buller.
Here.
We have a quorum.
There are no changes to the agenda, so let's move on to the approval of the minutes from the meeting of July 9th, 2024. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll
Motion to
second.
approve, and we have a second. Any discussion? Voice vote, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes 5-0. Moving on. I would ask that anybody listening online, please listen to the rules and procedures that are reviewed, and if you have any input, we have 9 public hearings tonight. If you have input on any of the public hearings, to input at any time, don't wait until that item comes up so that we don't have delays or miss your opportunity to input. So would staff please go ahead and review the rules?
Yes, for all petitions, tonight's meeting will have the following structure. The department will summarize the petition and describe what action, if any, is necessary to be taken. Then the petitioner will be given up to 15 minutes to present to the board. The president will open a public hearing, and individuals will be given 3 minutes to speak. Those representing a group will be given 5 minutes to speak. Only one member of the group will be given 5 minutes to speak, and for efficiency purposes, we ask that those representing a group speak first. The public hearing will be closed when all interested members of the audience have had a chance to be heard and all emails received during the meeting have been provided to board members. The petitioner will then have a chance to respond to comments, and the board will follow with any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the petition. Please do not disrupt the proceedings in any way. If you need to have a private discussion, then we ask that you please quietly exit the room. Please silence your devices at this time, and if you must answer them, then please quietly exit the room. If you are attending in person and wish to speak in regards to a petition scheduled for a public hearing, once the public hearing is opened by the president, then please approach the podium and write your name and address on the sign-in sheet next to Ryan. If you are not attending in person, comments regarding a petition should be emailed to planners@westfield.in.gov with the petition name or number included in the subject line. Those comments will be forwarded to board members and the petitioner. During your comments, please state your name and address into the microphone for the record, and then we ask that you not repeat previously stated comments. Your presentation will be timed, and you'll be advised when there's approximately 30 seconds remaining. We would like to remind everyone to please speak directly into the microphone so your comments can be put onto the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have no consent agenda, so we'll move straight into the items of business, all requiring a public hearing. First item is Community Health Network Incorporated, 99900 East Street. Ryan, you are up on that.
Yep, thank you, President, members of the board. For the record, Ryan Collingwood with the Community Development Department. The subject property is about 54 acres in size and is located at 19900 East Street within the GB General Business District. The petitioner requests multiple variants of development standards to permit the construction of a hospital tower and associated site features as requested by the petitioner. The development standard variances include within the petition request include implementation of a tilt-up concrete material in lieu of masonry materials as a primary building material, waiving the required building modulation standards of the proposed tower, and a request to reduce the amount of required curbing around the site. This item does require a public hearing tonight, which has been properly noticed and advertised. Staff has received no comments related to this petition. The petitioner is here this evening. They are available to answer any questions as it may, if you have any for staff. Thank you.
Is the petitioner going to make any kind of presentation? Nope. I think the answer is yes.
Good afternoon, members of the board. For the record, Tim Oakes. Sorry. Good afternoon, board. For the record, Tim Oakes, attorney at Ice Miller, representing Community Health Network. At the risk of being cavalier, which we certainly are not, but we're also sensitive to the agenda. Staff did a good job. I want to publicly thank staff for the effort and time they put into this. Present with me are Gary Murray of the civil engineer at Kripe, Chase Miller and Joel Farmer of Guyden, who are the architects, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Board members have any questions before I open the public hearing?
What is tilt-up concrete?
Well, what you see on the screen, what we're looking at really is the gray area that the community sign that's on the rendering, all of that. Those are actually technically called architectural high-performance concrete panels. They come in panels. They're made of concrete with specific aggregate added, and then they're attached to the interior rain wall and insulation, et cetera, with an aluminum clip system. They come in various size panels. The advantage is longevity, ease of maintenance, certainly not cost, and uniformity of color. It also allows us to match the color of the existing buildings that we're going to utilize. In other words, customize the color, but it still looks, feels like a masonry material. And I have a sample of not the color, but the system
Basically,
itself.
it's concrete siding.
It's really fancy concrete siding.
Okay.
Yeah, really fancy concrete siding.
What was, for staff, why is this a variation? What would be required there?
This is, so it's in the US 31 overlay, which requires masonry material, which by our definition, tilt-up concrete is not a masonry material.
Gotcha.
Because they're,
Okay.
Other questions from the board? Okay, then we're going to open the public hearing at 7:07. So anybody online and wants to send a note in, please do so at this time. Open a public hearing. And we have nobody present who's going to speak, signed up, okay? Then
And not at this time, nope.
Any comments submitted? No. Submitted, then I will close the public hearing at 7:08. All right, BZA members, you have another opportunity for any questions? Being none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve 2407 VS 23 at 19900 East Street.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Keen,
Yes?
Mr. Bowler,
Yes.
Mr. Clarino,
Yes.
Mr. Plummer. Yes. Mr. Buckafist.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now I need a motion for findings of fact.
I'll make that motion for findings of fact.
I have a motion, is there a second? We have a second for findings of fact. Any discussion? No discussion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Keen,
Yes?
Mr. Bowler,
Yes.
Mr. Clarino,
Yes.
Mr. Plummer. Yes. Mr. Buckafist.
Yes.
Findings of fact are approved.
Okay, on to the next item, which is,
Nice building. Appreciate it, guys.
next item, 3401 206th Street, requesting a variance of use to permit a construction trade office. It does require a public hearing, and Dane, you are up on this one.
Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a variance of use request for the 3-acre property at 3401 West 206th Street. The petitioner is requesting a variance of use to permit a construction trade office, specifically a landscape contractor business on the property. Construction trade offices are only permitted in open and enclosed industrial zone districts, as well as areas zoned general business. This item has been properly noticed and advertised. The department has received one public comment, which has been provided to you this evening. As detailed in the staff report, if the board is inclined to approve the variance, there are several conditions of approval, which staff has previously shared with the petitioner and which they are agreeable to, that are listed on page 3 of the staff report. The petitioner and representative are present this evening. If the board has questions, they do not plan to make a presentation beyond this introduction. Thank you.
Before we open the public hearing, do the board members have any questions of the petitioner? written comments that were given to us? Okay, then I shall open the public hearing at 7:10. I've opened a public hearing, so you're up. Oh, he's the rep, okay.
Gentlemen, my name is Charlie Brown. I'm the broker, owner of Benchmark Realty Group, representing the buyers requesting the variance tonight. We're here to answer questions. You have all the material in front of you. I think you're going to hear some testimony from the neighbors next door. We spoke with them last night, and I think we addressed their concerns. So we're hoping that this can all be addressed pretty quickly here this evening. Thank you.
Quick question, if I may, why they sign up for public hearing? Broker for the buyer, so the landscaping company's not currently there?
I'm sorry, say it again, please.
You were saying you are representing the buyer?
Yes.
So the landscaping company's not currently there, although it's
No, we're
registered as
trying to
there?
purchase the property, but the only way we can purchase it is if we can get successful approval of the variance. Otherwise, it's just a non-issue for us to purchase.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
My name is Kayla Plant, and I'm extremely nervous, so I'm going to read up on my notes here.
No one bites, so don't worry.
I live at 3427 West 206th Street, which is adjacent to this property, and we received a notice for the request of variance of use on the property. I had concerns as to the impact of on our property and to the resale value, which I shared in an email to you, which is probably the comment that you got. This email inspired a call from the buyer's realtor and a request to meet with the owners of Mac Landscapes. The meeting did help ease some concerns I have. I do need clarification from you, though. We live in a gray area. We have a Sheridan address, a Washington Township. We're Westfield, Washington School District. The libraries couldn't even figure out who should issue cards, if it's Sheridan or Westfield. When I called the What's Happening sign that was in the yard of this property, I was told they didn't know what I was talking about and that the address was outside of Westfield's jurisdiction. So I'm curious to know what the variance of use this board would approve would apply to. Is it to the business or is it to the property? Because we bought our property for peaceful enjoyment and to escape hectic, and just to escape hectic, period. As our neighbors confirm, this is the reason that they all live out where we do. And my aim is to protect that. I think Mac Landscapes, the owners of this landscape business, understand and I hopefully respect that. And I honestly think they would be really good neighbors to us. But with the expansion within Hamilton County and specifically of Westfield moving north, I need to know I'm not opening a Pandora's box with the approval of what this variance would mean to us. So I just need clarification. Is it stay with the property? Is it just with the business? How does that work? Because I honestly don't know.
Dane, you want to go ahead and answer that?
Yeah, so unless otherwise requested, the variance would typically run with the property. However, the variance can be binding on the petitioner in this case. And so if that were the case and there were an additional condition added to the ones that are already in the staff report, then if the petitioner were ever to sell the property, the variance would become no longer in existence and a landscape contractor company could not continue the use. Or conversely, the prospective buyer could come back to the BZA, try to modify the condition so that it would apply to them as well. So either way, it would not continue automatically if that condition were to be added. There would be another, it would either go away or the new prospective buyer would have to come in and request another variance, basically.
Okay.
So, and I think that based on conversations I had with the petitioner earlier today, it sounded like they were open to the idea of adding an additional condition to this, that it would be tied to them, and then whatever may be in the future, they would cross that bridge basically when it would come.
Okay.
So
because I emailed and asked you to deny the request, but if that is the case, then I will rescind that, and, because like I said, I think they would be really good neighbors to us. I just,
Let me just also Thank you for that. Let me just also explain, there's an agreement between the city of Westfield and Washington Township that the Plan Commission, the BZA, actually deals with the entirety of Washington Township. It used to be, it was different, but now it's all one simple body that does the
Okay.
entire thing. So whoever said that's not this or that, whoever it was, they were wrong.
Okay,
you're-
it's
you're-
just been, we've been out on our property for 12 years, and it's just, I feel like we've fallen into this gray area that, but I guess some people know, but, so thank you for that clarification.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you. Other speakers? Have we received any emails?
Nope, not at this time.
Then I will close the public hearing at 7:16. Members of the BZA, any questions for staff or a follow-up or anything else that you thought of?
Follow-up, so I understand this is Mac Landscaping. When I looked up the address, it's currently registered as a landscaping company, A&R Landscaping. So to confirm, is there already or previously a landscaping company doing business here that we're aware of?
Not that we are aware of, no.
Okay.
So, and just to follow up on that, is Connor the owner of this property?
Connor McKernan is present this evening.
Okay, are you the owner of this property?
I'm one of the owners.
Okay,
It's myself and my brother Michael.
okay. And so you're looking to sell this to Mac
We're looking
Landscapes?
to purchase this property to operate the landscape company out of.
And so to confirm, this would solely be a construction office, and would anybody use this as a residential dwelling, or
No.
is it just office space?
Just office space.
One of the conditions of approval is that that existing residence remains residential in nature and would only be used for office purposes. There obviously are other elements per the site plan that take place outside of the house, but, yes.
Any other questions? Could you flash back to the, I think, 7 or 8 conditions that you had up there? Yep, there we go. For the members out in the audience, when we do a findings of fact after approval, assume we approve anything and then findings of fact, these are in addition to just the zoning change or the change under. These are all other things that have to be complied with. So that's why there's two motions with this, not just one. So, nothing else, then I would.
I do have a question. What's the definition of minimal storage of pesticide? Yeah, the 2, 3, 4, 5 item. Minimal storage of pesticides and fertilizers in the property.
So we are a landscape installation company. We don't do lawn maintenance. We don't carry pesticides. We don't use fungicides. The only thing we use is fertilizer for planting trees, shrubs, perennials, things like that. And it's, I think we probably go through under 100 pounds a year of that material. So we're a 5-gallon bucket and, yeah. Right.
Hey, Jake, is your microphone on?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
The other question was about just the heavy traffic on the road and just, is that, how much traffic is it really going to drive? just
So
to and from?
we're not planning on having this, or we are not going to use this as a retail sale location, so there won't be customers coming in. There could be customers coming in to look at designs and things like that, but that traffic won't exist. And then the only thing would be we would have deliveries of material, but it would be in a small window of the year where we would be stocking material for the season. And then once those deliveries are made, they would be done for the season.
I think if you can flash back to the site plan briefly. So that proposal is to plant trees on all of the sides, so it's
Correct.
pretty much.
Those will all be evergreen trees to block visibility to the storage areas.
Are you going to do mostly hardscape, or is it a mixture?
It's a mixture, but
Okay.
we do hardscape and softscapes or greenscapes.
Okay, so you'll store block and,
Block, yep.
Okay.
Block and aggregate stone, river rock, things like that.
gotcha.
What are the bins where the aggregates, what are the walls going to be made of?
They're gonna be made of bin blocks, those larger, like 2 by 5 foot bin blocks.
Concrete?
Yes.
Yeah.
Question for legal, if I may. So we approved this variance of use in Ag SF1 on a condition specific to their business use, right? So it would not survive with the property. Does that set a negative precedent for future Ag SF1, that if we were to deny a future one, this is then references the ability to activate some level of business operations in Ag SF1?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I mean, there's lots of ag zone property in the city, and it's all contextual. Like, there are ag zone cities still within city limits and things like that, and where something like this out in the country might be more appropriate than within city limits, despite the zoning being the same.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Any other questions? And then I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve 2408 VU07 with the conditions noted.
I'll second with the conditions.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Make mention of the additional condition that it would just be with this business and not the property.
Yeah, so for the record, the conditions in the staff report are a part of the motion, including the condition that the variance of use be approved only if it is tied to the applicant on the variance application provided to staff.
All right. Then please call the roll.
Mr. Buller,
Yes.
Mr. Clarino,
Yes.
Mr. Plummer,
Yes.
Mr. Bunkefist,
Yes.
Dr. Keen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We have a motion for approval, and now I need a motion for findings of fact.
I'll make that motion.
Motion is second. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Buller,
Yes.
Mr. Clarino,
Yes.
Mr. Plummer,
Yes.
Mr. Bunkefist.
Yes.
Dr. Keen.
Yes.
Findings of fact are approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen, appreciate it.
Next item, 2909 East State Road 32, Next Gear Auto Sales, requesting a 5-year extension of an exemption. And let's see, Lauren, you're up on this one.
Good evening. Thank you, President, members of the commission, members of the board. For the record, Lauren Gillingham with the Community Development Department. The subject property is about 1.9 acres in size and is located at 2909 East State Road 32, directly west of Roudabush Equipment. The petitioner requests an extension to a previously approved special exception to permit auto sales in the GB General Business District and State Road 32 Overlay District. This would be the second extension of the special exception since it was first granted in 2018. I do have one revision to the staff report and the findings of facts. So at the request of staff, the applicant has agreed to reduce the extension from 5 years, as stated in the report, down to 3 years. This would make the new expiration date December 31st, 2027. After discussions with economic development, they thought that some of the redevelopment of this corridor might come a little faster than previously expected, meaning that 3 years would fit a little bit better. This item requires a public hearing tonight, which has been properly noticed and advertised. We've received no comments. Petitioner is here this evening and is able to answer any questions, as am I. Thank you.
Members of the board, do you have any questions of staff before we proceed to the public hearing? No questions? Okay, then I'll open up public hearing at 7:24. No one present signed up?
No.
Nobody online, and I will close this hearing at 7:25. Members of the board, last chance for any comments or questions?
The only question I have is there some plan to do some landscaping around this area? I would like to know, like, what kind of plans there is
Yes,
for that.
we were, that's why, yeah, my name is Fadi Al-Sabia, owner of Next Gear Auto Sales. We were planning to do it, and that's why we request the 5 years, but we reduce it to 3 years just to get the investment back, and we will do some maintenance and renovation for the warehouse.
Yeah, I mean, it would look nicer, you know, yeah.
I will, this is not to do, but this is just a personal comment.
Okay.
I'm glad to see it reduced from 5 years to 3 years. I personally think a higher and better use for this would not be auto sales along 32. So I'm hoping there'll be development comes along and there's a place we can find for you somewhere within Washington Township.
Thank you.
Is your mic on?
Yep,
Oh.
it is.
Sorry.
At least there's a green light down there.
He's just soft-spoken.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I'm entertaining a motion for this item.
If this were to be expedited, say, in 2 years, we can have the same conversation of removing the variance, right? As long as, obviously, end user and municipality come to agreement on whatever that looks like. But I mean, we can obviously, this body or whoever can also revert back to original. Or rezone.
So you mean if redevelopment occurs within 2 years?
Yeah, faster than 3, I guess.
Yeah, faster than 3, and yeah, we wouldn't even need to revert it or anything. It would just,
Presumably be subjected to an updated PUD or something at that point, and
yeah, so
Okay.
say they redeveloped into another commercial, the use would change, and presumably that use would be permitted, so.
Yeah,
Understood.
if there was a rezone through a PUD or something like that, and, you know, auto sales is no longer a desired use there, you could write it out through the PUD as a permitted use. Yep.
understood. Thank you.
Entertaining a motion.
Motion to approve 2408 SE01.
Do I have a second?
I'll second with the stipulation at 3 years because and the paperwork here, it says 2029, so.
So the variance will expire December 31st, 2027 per
Okay.
the modification.
So I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Clarino,
Yes.
Mr. Plummer,
Yes.
Mr. Bunkenfist,
Yes.
Dr. Keen,
Yes.
Mr. Buller,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. Positive recommendation, and we need a findings of fact. Do I have a
Oh.
motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the findings of fact.
Motion for approval, a second? And we have a second. Any discussion on findings of fact? Please call the roll.
Mr. Clarino,
Yes.
Mr. Plummer,
Yes.
Mr. Bunkenfist,
Yes.
Dr. Keen,
Yes.
Mr. Buller.
Yes.
Findings of fact are approved.
Next item is a Ace Hardware at 15933 Spring Mill Road. Variance to development standard.
Thank you, President, members of the board. Again, for the record, Ryan Collingwood with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a variance of development standard request for 15933 Spring Mill Depot Drive, the future Ace Hardware store located within the Spring Mill Station southwest corner Plan Unit Development District. The petitioner is here this evening to request a variance of development standard to permit outdoor sales displays and modify outdoor storage screening standards on the property. This item does require a public hearing tonight, which has been properly noticed and advertised. Staff has received no comments related to this petition. The petitioner is here tonight and plans on making a brief presentation. Community Development and Public Works are both available for questions if there are any. Thank you.
Hi, Chris Williams, President, Benja's Ace Hardware. So similar to our conversation from in the spring with our other one. So if you can go back to the rendering. Oh, I get to do that, all right. Oops. I don't know what I'm clicking. Oh, the rendering. There we go. So the first one is our original drawing had it completely blocked out. So we requested to actually have a fence line so people could see what's in the garden center, so they know it is a garden center. And then the second part was just the outside storage, so that way we could, from March till 4th of July, we could handle, we have so much volume with big bag product to be able to have the extra storage space to be able to provide for the community. So that's the two requests.
Any questions from the board? I'm thinking this is almost identical to the request up here on 32.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Are the structures similar? Because the last variance was just the outdoor sales. So this is also the variance for the actual structure materials?
Yeah, so the east side fence, so that way it's more visible. People could see like our live goods, flowers, plants, that sort of thing on the inside. But the storage for the outside is to prevent customers from having to drag all that product through the store from the garden center. They can just back up their car and we can load them up.
So is this outdoor structure though similar to your 32 location?
It's almost identical
Okay.
in terms of what the fence line looks like.
Thank you.
Okay, I will open the public hearing at 7:31. Anyone signed up who's present? No? Okay, we'll wait to see if we have any online.
Good evening. My name is Lee Harris. I live at 600 Green Oaks Lane, apartment 205, which is directly west of this development. What I'm trying to figure out is the building that they are building runs north and south along the west side, and east and west is on the south side. I can't tell you what from that thing is. I was speaking with this gentleman here. He said the building to the right is not part of their development. It just starts where the outdoor display area is. So is that outdoor display area at the north end of this lot? I'm just trying to get a perspective, because see, there's no streets or any marks on that map, and so I can't tell what's going on. But I'll speak for my wife, who said, Ace Hardware, free popcorn, I'm in.
Speaking from my interpretation, it does look to be the northern part of that red dot.
And
Go back to the view again, because that was his question, I believe, is that the view is facing west, correct?
Yeah, I can't read, but you have Spring Mill Depot Drive. It appears your Ace building is up against that corner, and then that display will be off of the bend. So the bend of the building and the bend of the road is directly south. That is the halfway point and faces
Yeah, so
we're
this,
facing
yeah,
north.
this is the
and
parking
then
lot, this is the front of the building,
Correct.
this is where the outdoor storage is, and then.
That's
so,
correct.
The gate itself would face Spring Mill.
Yeah, correct.
So that image was taken from the upper right
Yep,
of the,
yep, so the concrete you see in blue, the
It'll be-
gated area you see in green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was our understanding when I'm on the Spring Mill Station Task Group that approved this, and that was our understanding that that's how it was going to be.
Any email comments?
No.
None? Okay. Then I'll close the public hearing at 7:35. Board members, any other questions, comments?
Just super excited about it. I mean, it's been a long time coming, this whole corner. Been waiting for it to really get up and running, and so very excited for you to be there.
Any other comments? Then I'm looking for a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve 2408 VS 2415933 Spring Mill Road with the recommended conditions of approval included in staff's report.
Have a motion, is there a second?
I'll make the second.
Motion and a second, any comments? Let's call the roll.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Mr. Buckafist?
Yes.
Dr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. Buller?
Yes,
Mr. Clarino?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'll make the motion for the findings of fact.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for findings of fact. Any comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Mr. Buckafist?
Yes.
Dr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. Buller?
Yes,
Mr. Clarino?
Yes.
Findings of fact are approved.
Next item,
Thank you.
118 Penn Street, variance of development standard, architectural standards. And this is Dane.
Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Dane Crabtree with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a variance of development standard request for the .17 acre property at 118 Penn Street, the vacant lot literally due west of City Hall. The petitioner is requesting the variance to modify the business district architectural standards of the UDO and replace those standards with the building elevation exhibit provided as Exhibit 4 this evening. As you may recall, a request nearly exactly the same as this was before you in March regarding the property at 147 North Walnut Street. This item has been properly noticed and advertised. The department has received no comments. Dave Sobzak of Sobzak Construction Services, on behalf of the petitioner, is present this evening, and Mr. Sobzak would like to make a brief presentation, after which he'll be available for questions.
Good evening. Thanks, Dane. Dr. Keen, members of the board and staff, thanks for all your help. To mirror some of the comments before, staff's been great on helping us get through all this and putting together the right ideas and plans. And we also did meet with the economic development part with Janelle about the idea that we had with, and also Mayor Willis. So, but what brought all this about is our client, Solid Wellness and Aesthetics, Mike and Kate, great Westfield family, good and upcoming Westfield business, are currently renting my office on Jersey Street. And they're outgrowing it, so it kind of both timed out right with the new development that the city has on the north side of Jersey Street between that and 31 and Poplar and Mill Street. So they needed a place to go. Mike was proactive in finding a property, and we found one next door. Talked with the historic people. Mike met with Jeff Beals, I believe it is, about it. So we tried to cover all the bases, but it's a good-looking product. It'll be a great-looking fit. Our reason for the ask is it's not going to look like a strip center on 32. It's going to kind of fit the neighborhood here better, look a little bit more residential in nature, and function as a nice medical office, basically.
Board members have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
So the, it's fiber cement siding, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And is the vertical lines, is that representing the batten material, the vertical?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, the board and batten type siding.
Yep. And what is the awning material? I was trying to look at the elevation. What is that made out of?
Well, probably a metal type of window enhancement or bracket or shade type of thing. The exact detail we haven't come up with. Whether I'll build a bracket that matches the trim on the building, or maybe it'll be all out of steel, but it'll be a nice little accent over the windows, kind of act like a shade, and give it some character on the outside.
And so I know this is still, I don't know what level of detail this is. It's a construction document, but I see the second floor line. Is there going to be anything to kind of break that vertical? Maybe that's just part of what you haven't submitted yet. It breaks up the vertical. It looks like to me like there would need to be joints in there. So it's really just a question of how that's going to.
Well, there slightly will be because of the nature of the product.
Sure.
It'll only
Horizontal
come.
lines.
Yeah, there'll be a slight horizontal line in there that
Okay.
maybe we'd add an accent trim board to mimic the gutter line at the first level.
Staff, so on the material side of this, 100% masonry or 60% masonry and 2 other materials, that'll obviously be subjected to what's approved in the UDO for this zoning requirement, and obviously engineering or whoever looks at this will have final no-go. Is that correct?
I don't follow. Can you repeat?
So facades from the street will either be 100% masonry material or 60% masonry materials with 2 or more other materials comprising the remainder, is what it says in the staff report. So the 2 other materials, is that subjected to what's permitted with this classification?
So I think what you're referring to is what would be required in the event that this request was not before you. It's talking about that the State Road 32 overlay architectural standards would apply. The request is to modify. So
Understood.
That
So I'm
don't
misreading
apply.
that. Okay.
But yeah, so that's basically saying what would apply if
Perfect.
they were not requesting this. Yes.
Makes sense. Thank you.
So I'll just add to it. I mean, I think I could get behind the massing and the architecture if there was maybe a little bit of thought given to the base of the building. And I think that kind of gets to what Billy Mr. Bungfast was suggesting. I don't know if it means that you've got something at the base below the windows. I just think maybe a little bit more refinement. And again, this is just a question as I'm thinking about long-term how that whole corridor looks. Just something to think about. Not understanding what the window awnings are. You said a metal material, but do you have?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any more renderings, or it's hard to tell from this because I just see vertical lines on it, what that's going to look like. And
Yeah.
the only concern I have is that could come off kind of cheap if it's just metal, not knowing. I understand what fabric.
I won't build
on it.
anything cheap looking, but.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to speak for Mr. Sobzak, but in conversations, this was being modeled somewhat off of the Coin Vet building up by Grand Park, and that has no masonry base. And things like that. So I understood that these renderings probably are a little bit difficult to envision without color.
Yeah, that's really the root of the concern.
So one of the requirements is that of the local business historic district is something, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but it's like earth tone is required as part of the color palette. So this is also going through our detailed development plan process right now too. And that's one of my comments on this staff report is provide color palette updates for at least when that comes through. Just background.
Good to know. Thank you.
Any other comments?
The only question I have is the parking's going to be adequate for what they need? Because
should
you're
be.
going to keep the back parking spots, correct, or the?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so the back public lot stays. We're going
Yes.
to add
Well,
a few
that's
more on.
still city-owned.
Correct.
That's not part of this, but the Penn Street corridor has been designed so that on-street parking is available
Right.
on the Penn Street corridor because of its width, too. So,
Okay.
yeah, keep in mind that the Penn Street is envisioned to have on-street parking.
Where will there be any modifications that are needed to be done to the road in order to accommodate the building?
For this use, no.
Okay. And then you're adding, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is that 7, 8? And the
Yeah, I thought it was about 8 or 9 spaces.
oh, yeah, it's about 8, because I think you have the handicap
100%.
with the, yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah, I need to have a public hearing. So we open a public hearing at 7:44.
Judy Stanley Shuck, 209 West Main Street, Westfield, Indiana. What I want to speak on is our history. Right here, we're sitting in the corner of a designated historical area. We've got our museum here, we've got our log cabin here, we've even got the theater here that took part in our presentation this last spring to the school children to teach them Westfield history, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And every fourth grader in the state of Indiana has to take Indiana history. But this year we had fifth graders and third graders, and they went from the theater, participated, and they went in this room and had participation, and they were in the museum and got a lesson on the Underground Railroad. And then they go to the cabin and hear all about our history there. And you know that this area is very much historical area. It was very historical before even downtown came alive. We are moving the first drugstore that was ever, first business that was ever on the corner uptown, downtown, over to this lot over here. We hope that it's used for a historical element. But we had buses coming in, with third graders and so forth. The fifth graders got to walk from the school over there. But once they get moved out of town, they won't be able to walk to the museum. But anyway, we know that this area and this street has been designated historical. And we want to keep it that way. We want to keep our historical charm and all of that in this area. History is very important to me. Being a fifth-generation Westfield resident, and I've lived here for over 70 years, was only gone for 4. I love it. It's who made and created our family. And the one thing that I say to everybody is if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going. So history is important, and we have lots of charm, and we wish we could, a new building that comes in could have that historical charm that blends in with all of this area and so forth. But I just want to reiterate, the children that came and heard the stories of the Underground Railroad and how government runs in Westfield and how our whole community started and developed and so forth. Those kids were so excited. I love teaching the children about our Westfield history, period.
Thank you, Judy. I do think, just as a kind of a follow-up to that, I did hear, Dane, your department really took the historical perspective with this design. I mean, you met with the people, is that correct?
Dave, I did not. Dave said he met with the Historic Society.
Okay.
So he
Dave
can
did, okay.
speak more about that.
Are we ready?
You're up. Yep, you're up.
Okay, Mark. Linda Nass, 1122 East 161st Street. I am the board member of the Westfield Preservation Alliance. I am a lifetime member of the Historical Society. I'm also sit on the COA committee for the State Road 32 revision and have been meeting and deciding about moving the green building. I'm part of that committee. We've worked on that a long time. So what I want to address today, and Indiana Landmark sits on that committee with me also, as does Pat Jacobs, who is designing the foundation and how that building's going to sit right over here across from the theater, across the alley from the theater. So what I want to address as we're adding a new building here, and it's exciting that people want to stay in our downtown. It keeps it alive, and it's really important to us that it does keep alive, that we don't lose more and more buildings. So we understand that the old house is gone now. We've seen the lot and what have you, but in looking at these designs and talking to some of the other committee members, and I haven't talked to Mr. Sobczak about this recently, but we would like to see it conform with Penn Street, because the city has decided that Penn Street will be the historic district. and they're going to designate it as such. So when you look out the windows here and out of that building, you see across Union Street, you see the Callahans have 2 homes over there. One was the Fern, the green building. That was restored to the original building with, woodwork and stairways and all. The purple building north of it is also a historic building that they own and have restored. And when you're talking about colors, it also lists in our UDO and our comp plan that it's not just the earth tones, but also historical colors. So when you see that purple house and you see the green one next to it, those were researched, those are historical colors. And you'll see that a lot as you go down this street. Not everything is white and earth tones, but they're all historical colors. So as I talk to Indiana Landmarks and others on the committee, and we're looking at these designs, everything along this street, and as it was built originally, everything, the entrance was on the street, not on the alleys, okay? And so we would like them to consider making the front entrance on the street on the south elevation, and we would like them to consider if the windows could be sized, perhaps, conforming with the other buildings down the street. They're not little windows. Many have big windows. We would also like them to consider a door that goes out the back, so maybe the employees park behind the building in this lot that's over there. That is city parking. And so I see there's a door on the back of the east elevation, but maybe that could even be on the back, which is the north elevation, that could break that up. We still think when we put up that new green building, which it's not going to be green, it's going to be restored to how it was built back in 1837. And that's per the Secretary of the Interior. It's going to be a beautiful 2-story gabled building. And when they look out the back of that, that north elevation isn't so attractive, nor is it from the theater, where a lot of people visit nowadays. So we're asking to kind of look at the design here and see if we can't get something that's more conforming to this area. I notice it looks like there are porches, which if you look down this street, almost every building has a porch. So if that's a front porch, that's great. We'd like to see the doors there. We'd like to see the windows sized more to all the other buildings. The gray 4 square in the corner, that's a historic building. So we want it to fit in, and everything in our UDO and our comprehensive plan says it should fit in here. It should look like it's been here. It should not look like, what is this monstrosity in the middle of this historic district? We're not saying that's a monstrosity, but we think there are some things that could be done. And when you turn over to the landscaping, it doesn't look like there's any landscaping on that west elevation. Maybe some bushes out there, but we think there could be more landscaping. And our question is, what about these big trees? Because I don't know if you're aware, but the big tree on the side of the city hall is a historic tree planned to be saved. So I don't know if anyone has looked at these big trees over here, but if you look along this street in the streetscape in Westfield, large trees fit in and make everything conform. So we'd like them to consider that also. We don't like the parking on the alley. There will be parking on the street allowed. You can park behind this building in that parking lot or anywhere else. If they wanted to, perhaps have a drive there, if they have people in wheelchairs who need to be dropped off there or what have you, but we don't have anything in this historic.
Your time is up.
Oh, sorry. We don't have anything in this district or historic district, and we wouldn't want to continue to promote parking areas on the sides of buildings. It just doesn't conform here. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other people signed up? Anything online come in? Nothing online, then I will close the public hearing at 7:54. Bob, you want to respond to anything?
Thanks, Judy and Linda. All good points. I think that's the idea of Mike and Kate, is to fit in, and Dane and I in planning and some of the development and with the architect have tried this was the first design they came up with. So as far as the parking on the alley, well, I think we did talk to the city to see if we could use the public lot over here, which actually was part of that lot to begin with, and then it got split in half and the city took the lot over. I think Mike and Kate would be fine with not putting a parking lot in. It'd be a little bit less expensive. But we did, because of the need possibly for parking, and I think there's only about 4 or 5 spots out front that you'd have to share with the hair salon next door. I think there may have been a need for on-site parking on our behalf. So that's what oriented the building that way, since the lot's a little longer and the majority of the parking would be on that side of it. The front, we did have a wraparound porch design actually at one point in time, but to aid to the access of the building with the customers and the clients, like I said, the majority of the parking is going to be on the east side of the building over here. So, but the parking's up to you guys. If we don't need it, we don't have to put it in. So,
The FYI, parking lot is not a part of the request this evening. It is permitted. It's been reviewed by the engineer. So that probably is not a point of discussion this evening because it's not a part of the request. So.
Well, Bob is up. Anybody at BZA have questions of Bob?
Dave, how many
Dave, I'm sorry,
employees would be there?
well, receptionist, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4.
Okay,
About
and
right. 5.
5 employees, and typically then 4 or 5 clients at a time? Yeah, you just said we're not supposed to think about parking, but that pretty much takes up the city lot that's behind it, between the employees and clients, so, I can, so, okay.
Yeah, I guess my biggest concern, and I appreciated the comments for sure, is the precedent, I think in terms of architecture. I don't, like I said, I don't think the massing, it's the footprint that is concerning as much as maybe just some thoughts on refinement to address some of the concerns that were brought forward. I looked on Google Maps and was looking down Penn Street, and if you go back to the elevations again, you said this was the first design. Was there any thought put into a different roof massing? And I guess where I'm going with that is that as I look down Penn Street, I see a lot of gable roofs. They're just a straight, a gable instead of a hip roof. So I think that this kind of distinguishes itself as a little bit more modern with that kind of hip roof as opposed to a gable roof. Things like the maybe having more, I know we don't have masonry as part of this discussion, but it's just something that I think that might want to be looked into. So I don't know where this is in the review process, but I have some concerns just in terms of the precedent.
I think the hearing comments, and the owners are here tonight, I'm sure they'd be amicable to work with some of the design questions as well. So they just happen to like the Coin Vet building that is over by Grand Park and a couple other ideas like that, just for the look, so.
Yeah, and from after you said that project, I know where that is, but that's not really, that's not really part of the historic district, is it? I mean, I don't know what that.
No, I was just mentioning that was mentioned, that that's what this.
Yeah, it's
model
Grand
is.
Park Commercial District, yeah.
Any other questions from board members?
No, I would just reiterate that I think, making like a front entrance, that would be nice because all the other buildings, they do have a front entrance and, maybe that would make it fit in, a little bit better to do that. I don't know that that would be a huge cost to do that.
No, I don't think it would. I think like I said, it was just kind of geared for the customer parking, so. Not a bad idea.
Sure, and if you could get away without having that, customer, or maybe just reduce it or, to some degree.
No, all good ideas. I think that they're pretty open and amicable to keeping everybody happy, so.
Other questions? Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
Dan, I have a question, procedural question. Assuming we approve this, does this move on to APC then for approval?
So if this were approved this evening, it would be on the APC's consent agenda eventually, because there is a detailed development plan involved with this. It would not be, there would be no public hearing at APC. It would simply be, once compliant, it would be on their consent agenda for approval.
So since two of the 5 people sit on the APC, there'd be time for Dave to meet with the Historic Society, do whatever changes seem logical, and then when it comes there, even though it's a consent agenda, we still have opportunity input for whatever.
I would feel uncomfortable approving this, considering the staff report notes that the elevations have to be substantially compliant with what's here before you, and any modifications made to that, we don't know what those would be yet. So my recommendation, if the petitioner is agreeable, is to continue through the detailed development plan process, get all the civil engineer site plan worked out, and so that way they come back in September after continuing this for a month with new elevations, and so those can be looped in with the DDP that's already gone through the engineering aspect of it, based on what the testimony I've heard this evening.
Okay. So petitioner, is that an acceptable route to go? Okay, then we'll just consider this to be a withdrawn item and then see it at the September meeting probably.
So in that case, we need a motion to continue this until September.
Okay,
Motion to continue
okay.
to 2408 VS 25 to the September BZA hearing.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any comment? Please call the roll.
Mr. Buckafist.
Yes.
Dr. Keen.
Yes.
Mr. Buller.
Yes.
Mr. Clarino.
Yes.
Mr. Plummer.
Yes.
This item is continued until September.
We do want you here, though, so don't give up.
Okay, on to the next item, which is BHR Construction, 16227 Oak Ridge Road, modify minimum lot size. Ryan?
Thank you, President, members of the board. For the record, Ryan Collingwood with the Community Development Department. The subject property is about 0.96 acres in size and is located at 16227 Oak Ridge Road within the AGSF1 Agricultural and Single Family Rural District. The petitioner requests multiple variants of development standards to permit the construction of a single-family dwelling. Development standard variances included within the petition request involve numerous variances to bring the existing lot into compliance with the controlling regulations of the UDO. The 2 specific items are modifying the minimum lot size and minimum lot frontage standards of the AGSF1 district. Specific to the construction of the dwelling itself, the petitioner is also requesting to encroach 5 feet into the 30-foot side yard setback, as well as waiving the minimum living area standard required on the ground floor of a dwelling. This item does require a public hearing tonight, which has been properly noticed and advertised, and staff has received no public comments related to this petition. The petitioner is here this evening. They are available for any questions, as am I, if you have any for staff. Thank you.
Members of the BZA, anybody have questions before the public hearing?
So there is a drainage there, right?
Yeah, there's a legal drain that runs, you can see here on the south side of the property.
Okay, and that does not affect the structure?
Correct. I think the 5-foot encroachment to the north, the side yard setback to the north, kind of alleviates the issues with the floodplain
Okay.
to the south.
Yeah, you can
Perfect.
see right
Thank you.
here, based on the site plan, the reciprocal drainage easement
Got
line
it.
is dashed here. So the concrete, or excuse me, the asphalt is located basically right on that line.
Okay, thank you.
And one more thing I should also mention before you continue on. And within Exhibit 4, the floor plan elevations exhibit, it is noted that the east and west elevations are actually flipped, and the north and south elevations are actually flipped. After looking at the site plan itself, I think we realized that the east elevation shown here on the screen is actually the west and vice versa for all the other cardinal directions.
Thank you.
No other questions? I will open a public hearing at 8:05.
Hi, you'll have to bear with me. I have a really bad cold. I'm Cindy Eaton. My husband and I live at 715 Allen Court. And when we looked at this, we noticed that the living quarters are all upstairs. There is no living quarters downstairs except for a bathroom, a mechanical room, and that leaves all of that area open into interpretation of the owner. And we're not really happy about that, because that interpretation could take in a lot of things. They could have big parties without any variances, requests, or, talking to the neighbors. They could make it into a B&B. We've already got 3 on 161st Street that nobody seems to know that that's there. So, and one of those B&Bs houses over 28 people. That's a lot of people. It's a lot of kids. And they go up here to the Ground Park. And most of the time, they are pretty quiet, unless they have children over the age of 14. Then they roam the neighborhood. So we'd like to see that nothing goes in that downstairs to make it into an Airbnb. And if you look at the second story, it looks like there's only 2 bedrooms and a full bath and a kitchen and a large great room. But look at all of that open space downstairs. That leaves the door open for whatever they want to do without asking permission or getting a license or another variance, because the door's open. And that's an awful lot of asphalt all the way around that house, the way it looks. What are you going to do with all that asphalt? In my interpretation, you're going to park a whole bunch of cars, which is, when I talked to Lauren, when you park a lot of cars there, you're putting more cars on the roads and more in the neighborhood and more people. And we want to make sure that it stays nothing but a single dwelling home, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. Do you guys have any questions in regards to that? I mean, do you see it the same way I do? Or am I the only one looking at it that way? Of course, you guys don't live in the area. We do. And we've seen a lot.
I think there's at least one member up here who lives in your area. Maybe not quite as close as you, but we're listening.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you're listening to us, because, I was really surprised that we got notified, because we didn't get notified of the other one.
Ma'am, your time is up.
So we're trying to figure out what's going on.
Thank you. Other comments? Anybody else signed up? Anybody? No, I'm talking about additional.
Oh, sorry.
How about any email comments?
Good evening. My name's Bill Bolander, and I'm with BHR Construction out of Noblesville. And I'm representing the owner right now. He is here with us tonight. But my conversations with the owner are that this is nothing more than a dwelling for him and his wife, and they have one child, and they have a few cars that they like to have on site. Some people have 3-car garages, some people have 4-car garages. This is nothing more than a garage for his cars and a lawnmower and a trailer. So the amount of asphalt that surrounds the home here is to be able to pull a trailer around it and park it in the back. There's not, the intent is not to be a bed and breakfast or a B&B or whatever you want to call it, Verbo or anything like that. It is solely for him and his family to enjoy their car collection and live peacefully amongst everybody else. It's nothing more than that. And if Mr. Tiplick would like to come up and add anything to it.
Gary Tiplick. Yes, I'm just a car enthusiast and still have the same car I drove in high school and kind of want to have something for retirement to enjoy and a place to go to. And I live very closely by, so just live at 146 in Spring Mill.
Thank you.
Question for, I guess, for staff would be, if this were to be approved, could we add a condition upon approval that would be, I don't know if they could be permanently tied to this property that just stipulates, I mean, it's obviously zoned for just a single-family residence, correct? It's not a,
Correct. It's zoned for, it's agriculture, single-family rural, but a single-family dwelling is a permitted use on the property.
Let's make sure clear. I thought that something like Airbnb rental property would have to be regulated by the HOA, that the city cannot regulate that.
The city cannot. The state has told cities that they cannot regulate the rental or ownership aspects of a property.
The HOA can, because my HOA has done it. Okay.
Now, I don't know, this is probably a question for legal, if the petitioner were willing to self-impose a condition that it not be rented out to a third, or what it would be, a second party, third party, whatever you want to call it, then if that would put the fears at ease, I don't know if that is a legal element of it. But we cannot request that.
I don't know that that would be something that we would be able to enforce as part of the approval process through legal. I mean, their promise is, whether they promise it or not, we might not be able to enforce it as this governing body.
Now, in regards to worries about it becoming anything else, like a business, then it would be no different than any other single-family residence trying to turn into a business, and it would be subject to code enforcement at the time, because there's no request here for a variance of use. It's simply to encroach into the northern setback and for no ground floor square footage. Those are the only two requests. Otherwise, they're planning to comply with all applicable standards.
Just to confirm, Ryan, the east elevation is the west elevation, and that's what you see from Oak Ridge. Is that correct? Maybe, perhaps.
I may want to ask for confirmation from Bill or the owner if that is correct. The east and west elevations are.
That is the top elevation is the one facing the street.
Okay.
Correct, okay. So yes, so the one you see here with the mouse on it is indeed the west elevation toward Oak Ridge Road. Yes,
So
toward the street.
I would suggest that if the board is inclined to approve this variance, that it be noted in any conditions that the elevations shown here are subject to that modification.
This,
By the way, President, the public hearing is still open.
excuse me, if you would like public hearing still open, if you want to come sign up and speak at the mic so we can hear you. Please.
The elevation say,
We need,
my name is Belen Kasani, and I live behind there. And this one. They say that they're gonna have a garage with the antique cars and everything, okay? The elevation, the plan that you showed is just one car garage door. And the other side is a French door to get in for a party. This is one garage door only. Ah. Okay, now it's, another elevation. Now we don't see the elevation with the French door. Okay? Okay, I'm sorry. But that don't look the garage. Because you do a garage so big, the plan that you have over there is so big, you put all the doors in line. But that's weird. For me, it's weird. 2-door garage over here and one the other side. Very weird for me. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's my point of view as a neighbor of that thing, okay? Thank you.
okay, sign up, please. Thank you. Any other comments?
I guess just to.
Well, if I
Yep,
may,
okay, good.
let's close public hearing before we go
Thank
through
you.
any more comments.
I will close the public hearing at 8:18. Any other questions from board members?
No, you're fine. The only, so just to address, I think, the neighbor's concern, do we have landscaping? Is there any landscaping that shows up on the site plan? Because, I mean, I think that starts to address some of the concerns about the view shed towards that east elevation.
We don't have any landscape.
It doesn't show any landscape.
Plan, there's minimum requirements per the UDO, but. See on the lot is existing is here.
But to confirm, is this property, and maybe you don't know this, is this subjected to an HOA?
They have a very limited HOA. I think it's a voluntary. Or,
This is a
yeah.
pretty old development.
It's, yes. Like,
Understood. There's obviously considerable natural growth there already, and I presume the intent is to keep what you can as a natural barrier. So, on that note, I think we've heard.
Is there any drainage issue with that much pavement?
I can't say.
Larry, that would
This is
be-
no
that
different
would
than
be-
any other.
It'd be subjected to
vacant
engineering,
lot,
so
and
Okay,
we
gotcha.
approve the use, and then they still obviously have all the slew of public approvals. Well, excuse me, staff level approvals that would go from this.
As a car guy, this would be like my dream garage, but my wife wouldn't be thrilled with the living space, I'll
Right.
tell you that.
Well, and I think, made a comment, not to belabor this, it's really 4 garages, and that's what's unique about it, right? That's why there are 4 doors. It's quadranted off in a very unique and thoughtful way. Mr. President, let's make some magic happen.
Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 2408-VS-2616227 Oak Ridge Road with the staff's recommended conditions.
And noting the
What?
western facade.
Yes, and with the change that the east and west elevations are changed. And north and south. Thank you.
Turn the compass rose 180, I think, give or take.
Sure.
Hold it up to a mirror.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. Buller?
Yes.
Mr. Clarito?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Mr. Buckafist?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, now I need a motion to approve the conditions,
Findings of fact, yeah.
finds of fact, I'm sorry.
Motion to approve findings of fact for 2408 VS 26 with the conditions noted, and including the condition to provide the correct elevations for each of the 4 sides of the structure.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Dr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. Buller?
Yes.
Mr. Clarino?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Mr. Buckafist?
Yes.
Findings of fact are approved.
You both had very respectful neighbors tonight. Please be respectful in return. Thank you.
Last item requiring a public hearing, 1807 Dan Patch Lane, multiple variance of development standards to waive the US 31 overlay standards. Ryan, you're up again. You've
Yep,
done a
thank
lot
you.
of work this month.
Thank you, President, members of the board. Again, for the last time tonight, Ryan Collingwood for the Community Development Department. The subject property is about 1 acre in size and is located at 1807 Dan Patch Lane within the AGSF1 Agricultural and Single Family Rural District. The petitioner requests multiple variants of development standards to permit the construction of an accessory structure in the proposed location. Development standard variances included within the petition request also involve variances to bring the existing lot into compliance with the controlling regulations of the UDO. The petitioner is requesting to modify the minimum lot size standards of the AGSF1 district. In addition, the US 31 overlay regulations are also requested to be waived from this petition. In addition to also to remove the nonconformity of the existing home/structure on site, the side yard setback is requested to be modified from 30 feet to 15 feet. Specific to the construction of the proposed structure itself, the petitioner is also requesting to encroach 50 feet into the 100 front yard setback, as well as permitting an accessory structure to be located in an established front yard. This item does require a public hearing tonight, which has been properly noticed and advertised. Staff has received no public comments related to this petition. The petitioner is here this evening. They are available to answer any questions, as am I, if you have any for staff. Thank you.
Can you shut the door, please?
Thank you.
Apologies. I'm going to be on the record for that.
Any questions of staff before I move into the public hearing? The only question I have, this is the development is about, what, the 1980s?
Morgan
timeframe?
Woods actually platted prior to zoning, I think 74,
74.
75, somewhere in there. So that's why every single lot in that subdivision is not
Non-conforming.
compliant with AGSF1. Yep.
Okay, then I will open a public hearing at 8:24. I assume no one has signed up? Any email? No email? I'll close the public hearing at 8:25. Members, BZA, any questions of anyone? No questions? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 2408-VS-271807 Dam Patch Lane with the recommended staff conditions.
Have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any comments? Call the roll.
Mr. Buller.
Yes.
Mr. Clarino.
Yes.
Mr. Plummer. Yes. Mr. Buckafist.
Yes.
Dr. Keen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion for approval, and I always have a motion on findings of fact.
I'll make a motion on findings of facts to
Motion.
approve.
To approve.
I'll second, because you're staring at me like I should second.
Okay.
Huh?
Motion and a second. Assuming there's no fight, can we move on to any comments? No comments? All right. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Buller.
Yes.
Mr. Clarino.
Yes.
Mr. Plummer. Yes. Mr. Buckafist.
Yes.
Dr. Keen.
Yes.
No.
The fastest vote of the evening, and it's the last one. I'm sorry for that.
Okay.
That's the way the docket fell.
We have no items continue for future meeting reports and comments. Plan Commission liaison, that is I. Just to tell you that the last Plan Commission meeting last week, we did approve the development at West Fork Whiskey that the council did not approve last night. The council did not approve it by a 4-3 vote, so
Wow, so the APC
approved it 6-1 or 5-1, 5-1 or 6-1.
To be clear, we recommended it.
Yeah, it was
The APC,
six-
we did not
6-1
approve.
positive
Yeah, we
recommendation,
recommended.
Yes, yeah.
but was denied 4-3.
4-3.
Why? What was the overall consensus?
From an outsider's perspective, I'll tell you off the record.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was the only real item. There were some items that had a public hearing, but they'll come back for work sessions. So, community development.
We have no further comments.
All right. I have a motion for,
Motion to adjourn for Dane's sake.
is there a second?
Second.
I guess Ryan
We
should.
have a motion and a second.
Third.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 That's approved. We're